Billy Reeves here. Welcome to the Kscope podcast roundup of 2022, in a year where we've seen our artists emerge blinking from the light from the worst of lockdown, and we've discussed how they've created during the pandemic and how they see the future of the greatest of all of the human abstracts, music after the pandemic. Has it got a future? Let's start with episode 140, where one of our venerable groups, Tangerine Dream, are the group who essentially invented many of the tropes of electronic music. Their founder member long gone, but with the blessing of his family they continue. And this year, with an album and a half to release, they also introduced us to a new member, Paul Frick. How does that work then? Have you had any input into material that you're going to be performing live? Have you gone, I'd really like to do this or I'd really like to do that, or are you kind of tugging your forelock to everybody else?
Oh, luckily the others actually listen to me. I mean, they don't ignore me, which is pretty nice.
Who's talking?
Yeah. No, I mean, there's in terms of, I was very lucky to be, or I'm still very lucky to be involved in the composition of the new record. It's it still feels a bit surreal because I just came into this world and in this legacy with people who've been doing it for way longer. I never met Edgar, which is crazy. I've listened to so much music, so I'm the only one in this whole thing who has never personally met him. Well, I guess there's a difference between the new material that's coming out and the older material, because with the older material, my first thing is just to learn it. And for the gigs we had this year, in Poland, I had to learn a lot and write down things, write down the notes, and that's also such a pleasure. And I guess there I kind of try to show humility, because honestly also the others have way more knowledge about it, even though I think it will take years to catch up, but I'm at it. And when it comes to new things, I guess I'm way more vocal, you know what I mean? Just because it's in all this big luck that I have to be in this band that I love. In the moment you create new music, you also have to be yourself. There's an end to. You also need to think we are just these people in the room treating a legacy, but now it's just us and we need to do it. So there's also moments where maybe to just show humility will not do the job. You also need to create something new.
Tangerine Dream featuring new member Paul Frick. That's from Raum and that's called Along the Canal. Now, I spoke to Thomas Anderson from Gazpacho a couple of times this year, a band that are very much used to working remotely and are forward thinking. They recorded a concert in the Round at St.Croix, which now operates as the only visual representation of what the concert tour was going to be like before it got cancelled. The concert tour supporting their most recent album, Fireworker. I caught up with Thomas to see how all of the Gazpacho boys were at this juncture.
As a band, we may have been at it for a while, but we still feel our music comes from a very serious place, and we take our concepts very seriously. And in that sense, I think we've succeeded very much in this particular case. And I think the versions of the songs that were recorded were also different enough and emotive enough to bring something extra to the table, even if you still haven't gotten tired of the studio album Fireworker. It allows you to have a concert in your living room. You can bring the fans home to your house, and you can have 1,000 people in your living room, and it'll still be an intimate, close, small gig. So I think if we continue with this path that we're on, we can use the new technology to make a lot of interesting and new musical experiences that we haven't thought of.
Build a boat for yourself and set out for the sun. In the dream of yourself to dissolve and be gone. He's here, it's his machine controls my life. He's right in everything. He's always been slim and gray, sleepy traveler, pale at noon. Thank him for being everything. The call has come, the finger points to hold yesterday we would share from apart our hope climbed the wall of our mind outside all the thousands who are buried under the will of common memories, and they will eat you, drain you, drink you once they are
Gazpacho, Hourglass, the Fireworking at St.Croix version, and we'll be hearing from Thomas Anderson later in this podcast. Now, in the summer, Kscope introduced Alex Lifeson from Rush's new project to the world, Envy of None, featuring Alex, Andy Curran, Alf, Ania Abalini, and vocalist MAIAH WYNNE.
I would say that everyone kind of had their own specific job on the record that was pretty much consistent throughout the whole process. Andy and Alf worked on a lot of those original song instrumental ideas together, and they sent me a big folder of them, and I just listened to them and looked at the song title, and then I would write lyrics and sort of base it on what was already there. And occasionally on a few of the songs, Andy would already have a couple of words or just a few short lyric ideas, and that would also help me have an idea of where to take the rest of the song. And then I would copy and paste certain sections of the song that felt like, oh, this is the verse, this is the chorus, and I would extend the instrumental, write out all of the lyrics and vocal melodies, and sort of complete the song and send it back. And then they would add more instrumental layers and ideas, and that's usually when Alex would add his guitar layers, and that would just really make it feel full and added all of these textures behind everything that was happening and dancing around everything, and it really just made the tracks feel really full and beautiful at the end of the process. There were a few songs that had a different process. Alex had a few instrumental tracks that he had already finished and released, and for those I just listened to it and looked at the song title and added vocals and lyrics that fit with what was already there. And then there was one song called Old Strings that I wrote, and I had recorded the whole thing already, and I just sent it to those guys, and they stripped out some of the instrumental layers, simplified it, and then just kept the synth layers that I had and my vocals, and then added other synths and other instrumental ideas and the guitars on top of that, and it turned out really beautiful. And I don't really think we had to critique each other throughout the process much. I think it was really that we had already critiqued ourselves a lot because we were producing our own sections. You know, we were all recording and producing in our own studios, and we had the time to sort of throw away all of the bad takes and the bad ideas and experiment, so that by the time we were sending each other tracks, everything was usually really good.
Envy of None from their eponymous debut LP. That's called Old Strings. Now, one Kscope musician who kind of embraced lockdown and used it as inspiration and a recharging exercise is Marius Duda from Riverside and Lunatic Soul.
I was tired of guitar rock. I was tired of prog rock. I didn't want to continue that. I wanted to take some rest from this. And lockdown kind of helped me because we didn't have to play live shows. So I could be inside my room doing my own stuff like I did 30 years ago. It just reminded me the times when I was locked up in my room as a kid. So I did already my own private lockdown 30 years ago. You know, I was drawing comic books, playing games, listening to a lot of music, mostly from cassette tapes. And what is the most important, I was recording my own electronic sounds inspired by Vangelis, Tangerine Dream, and Jean-Michel Jarre. So I believe that lockdown forced me to remind myself and someone else that that kind of music was my background. I started from that. I grew up on electronic music. So I wanted to underline this fact that Riverside was not the first experience in my music life.
We have tried to find some titles of tracks which are solsticey, which are Christmassy, end of yeary. That's Lemon Flavoured Stars, Marius Duda from Claustrophobic Universe, part of his Lockdown Trilogy series of albums. And we spoke to Bruce SOORD and Gavin Harrison from the Pineapple Thief a couple of times this year. A band that were going from strength to strength, especially after introducing Gavin on drums just before lockdown, but they worked hard and they're back. And Kscope released an album called Give It Back, which was rewired versions of the Pineapple Thief material that Gavin had a hand in. So for our 150th show, we spoke to Gavin and Bruce about the art and spirit of collaboration. Perfect people to speak to, I would have thought, with Gavin coming into the group, and starting to remould some of their material.
Now, most songwriters that I've worked with don't like surprises. They want it to sound very much like their demo. Hopefully the drums will sound a bit better than their drum machine, but don't mess around with it. I don't want it to be drastically different. And Bruce said, I love surprises. So, there's other singers and songwriters I've worked with. If I said to them, could you write a third verse? Could you sing I'm going to write a middle section. They'd be horrified. You absolutely butchered my creation.
This is what was, because I've spoken to you both individually about each other, and I've tried to get you to bounce each other, and you've both been incredibly nice at each other. None of my journalistic skills worked at all. So now I've got you together and we're doing a bro bounce podcast. Come on then, Bruce, what is the worst thing about him? He comes stomping into your group, giving it the big I am, giving it the lobster,
smashing it up.
Yeah, and you're going, oh no, it's lovely.
Oh, I'm just too nice, aren't I? Yeah.
Yes.
No, I can't think of anything. I have to, we've had quite a few tours, quite a long time on like a horrible bus in the States, but it was never that bad. Never that bad.
How come?
I don't
Gavin,
know.
Why have you? Wow, Gavin, what's the thing that winds you up most about Bruce then? Is it because he's too nice?
I can tell you.
He won't buy a new guitar.
Yeah,
and you have to go, so buy this guitar.
Look, there's millions of things that I wind Gavin up.
I had to talk him into buying a guitar for I think the first American tour we ever did. I worked on him for about 3 years to buy a thing called a Variax.
Right.
Yeah, since I met him, since the very first tour. Every song, he changed guitar every single song, and it was a faff. And the guitar,
especially for a drummer, you don't change.
No,
snares
I don't
and
change
toms
bass drum
song.
in between songs. So the guitar tech would come running on with a different guitar every single time. And there'd be mistakes. Bruce would forget to plug it in. He's handed him the wrong guitar in the wrong tuning or the wrong pedal board. And I said, Bruce, you know what? There's this guitar called a Variax, and you can pre-program all these strange tunings that you like without actually, it's all done electronically.
Oh, right, so there's no machine head action.
There is a machine head. It is a normal guitar, but this very, very, very clever, intelligent electronic system means you can, with a flick of a switch,
God, sounds really
it will come out. It will come out with a different tuning. Even though acoustically the guitar's the same in E, you might be coming out the weird thing. And Bruce was like, yeah. I said, you'd save taking about 12 guitars to America if you just bought this bloody thing. And eventually, after a lot of arm twisting, he did buy it.
I did.
Now, are you now, Britt, you just about, as we're speaking just before you go off to a much postponed tour to far-flung places, are you now a successful band?
Well, I have this conversation with my best buddy John all the time. He says, like, at what point do you turn around and say, yeah, we're successful? The danger, the worry is where, if you sort of wake up in the morning and go, yeah, we're successful, we've done it. It invites complacency because we're not done yet. We're always thinking, right, I want to write better records, I want to write better songs and better music. So I'm always really reluctant to go, yeah, we're successful. But actually, let's just cut the crap. I think yes. In answer to the question, yeah, we are, because we're touring the world. We're playing to big, relatively big crowds, playing in lovely venues, and we can pretty much go to any town or city in the world and we can get an audience.
Don't look for the sunrise anytime. Don't run to the sunrise anytime soon. I hold you tighter every night, and I never let you outside your life, not once in your life. the city anytime. If you run to the city, then we're out of time. So soon. I hold you tighter every night, and I'll never let you out of sight in your life. Not once in your life. Not once in your life. Don't run. We'll be out of time. Sinks so slow. Covers my heart. I'm holding it down. Struggles to be this true. I hold you tighter every night, and I'll never let you out of sight. I hold you tighter every night, and I'll never let you out of sight in your life. Not once in your life. Not once in your life.
The perfectly titled Boxing Day, the rewired version from Give It Back, the Pineapple Thief, rewired with Gavin Harrison. And Gavin Harrison's former bandmate Colin Edwin returned with his ORK project this year, and I think that album is commercial as well. And it's interesting to see how the Kscope acts are slimming things down, making things more accessible. Here's Colin.
It's been a great feeling to make the record, because I feel that my bandmates are firing on all four.
Yeah.
You know, so everyone's sort of at the top of their creative peak, if you like. But not just us, the people around us in terms of like the artwork
Yeah.
and the design we've had and the input we've had from the video designer. Fantastic ideas knocking around, you know, and that's always a good sign.
With the disparate influences, that was a statement that was made at the beginning. Okay, we're going to make things tight and neat, because if you have to work within a small group of rules, a small canvas, sometimes you have to be more creative.
No, it's definitely the way things just fall about naturally,
Okay.
though. There was not a lot of discussion in terms of the music, really. There's a lot of discussion in terms of things like the mix,
Okay.
and things like that. But when it goes to the music, we tend to be more or less, you know, it's quite immediate. There's a word for it. I'm struggling to find the word. But when something just comes out, like, I can't find the word.
Okay. Ejaculation?
Almost. Yeah, it's quite spontaneous in a way. It's spontaneous. We've crafted things, but behind all that is a bit of spontaneity, really. We didn't want to overthink everything.
As she turns the knife There's no need to drown. Feel the ground endless. There's no need to drown. Feel the ground endless. As we see the light, the wind in your sails, that's only hope. As we see the light, the wind in your sails, that's only hope. That's only hope. As we see the light, the wind in your sails, that's only hope. There's a need to drown as we remain silenceless. There's a need to drown as we remain silenceless.
From Screamnasium, ORK, Hope for the Ordinary. That's a kind of Christmassy title, isn't it, if you look at it in a certain way? Now, and this year it's also lovely to see activity from Osric Tentacles and their gaffer, Ed Wynne. How's Ed been doing during lockdown, I wonder? I mean, because Tony Harris at Kscope is our mutual friend, of course. I don't think I've known him quite as long as you have, but I've known him a long time. And he's so evangelical about you, and he seems to be on a one-man mission to return you or place you in a very high pantheon of British pop music. Is that something you're comfortable with?
Eventually it might be nice after all these many, many years of hacking away at it. Yeah, it'd be fun. But, you know, whatever, either way, you know, see, the thing is with me is I'm very happy either way, you know. I mean, whether I'm successful at this or not, I'm still going to keep doing it because it's all I can manage to keep doing, really, you know.
That's interesting. So how would you gauge success? Because I would say that you have been and continue to be successful doing what you're doing, surely.
Yeah, I mean, for me, success is to be comfortable, you know, really. Have a roof and a bit of food and friends and family and close people all safe is good enough for success for me, you know.
It's nice to see, actually, kind of musicians being spoken about as key workers. You know, and it's interesting that, you know, many of them have second jobs and how difficult it is to tour now. I mean, have you, are you sort of like living in sort of Ed Wynne world, or have you been kind of touched by that? I mean, obviously you've been touched by the pandemic.
A little bit, yeah. But I mean, my version of the pandemic was the fact that, thankfully, Tony, again, at Snapper said, look, it's okay, you make an album and it'll be fine, you know. So that was my pandemic experience. So after that, I mean, it's, I don't know, really. It's, no, pretty much the bubble retained, and it's the same, yeah, the blue bubble is still intact, and it feels pretty much the same as it always has, really. Yeah.
Pretty much everybody that I've come across in doing 148 podcasts for Kscope basically owns the means of production, whereas, you know, when I was a lad, you know, you would have to go to a record company, they'd be the venture capitalists, you would have to hire studios, people would talk about warm, fuzz and flange, but you've pretty much been doing that for a long time.
Well, yeah, it used to frustrate me early on when I used to do bits of music for people in studios, and I'd see them all there sort of playing about with all these toys, and I very much wanted to get my hands on it, you know. And
on the knobs.
Yeah, you know, and I was sort of not allowed to play with them, but I just thought, well, that looks great, you know, and so I thought, well, somehow I'm going to try and wangle this so that I can do this and not listen to anybody else's ideas and have fun with it myself, you know. And it's been a slow learning life journey, learning how to get finer and finer details and closer to what I want to have on the sound.
I always suspected that so much of that kind of argot was bullshit. Our dear friend, the lovely Edwin, from his Kscope album Tumbling Through the Floatyverse. That's entitled Star Seeds, which I guess we all are. Now, with all the talk of getting to Europe and musicians getting around post-Brexit, John Gomm, of course, is a one-man band. I mean, talking of in-out referendums, it amuses me. I mean, obviously, that's, you know, it's such a big thing amongst musicians and people who have to travel now with carnets and gear and all sorts of problems, and it always amuses me to see a photograph of you on a plane with a guitar in the seat next to you. So I don't know whose guitar that is. It's just a coincidence. Every time I get on a plane, it's just a guitar sat next to me. Really weird. I do take it. The geezer from. I mean, nobody seems to put their arm up and say it's theirs. So I just wonder. It's odd. I always pay for a seat. It's if I can. It's not always reasonable to do that, but often it's not really any more expensive because you've got to pay extra to put it in the hold anyway, and it's you just know that it's safe. You know that it's not going to get smashed or lost, and you know, it's like people say, oh, you only travel with one guitar, which again is quite unusual because a lot of people travel with two guitars almost as like a redundancy system. Do you know what I mean? So I don't need to do that because I've got the one guitar. I only got one, but it's not going to spontaneously combust. You know, I don't need to worry about it breaking. It's going to be fine. So it's, I think it's kind of economically actually makes a reasonable amount of sense to do it. But I do get funny looks. But I'm so used to it now. Like I have to ask for the because you have to belt it in, right? You have to put a seatbelt around it, and if it doesn't fit, you have to get the extra extension that you use if you've got like a baby on your lap or whatever. So you have to ask them for the special extension. One time, I was on Jet 2, right? And it's which flies, as far as I know, only out of Leeds, Bradford Airport, and it's really just for holidaymakers, and they do like package holidays. But it just happened to be the best flight for me to get. So I'm one of the few airlines where, you know, you get on the plane and the cabin crew have never seen anybody with an instrument before on a plane, and they don't know what to do. So, and depending on who, I know what to do. I can explain all the rules of where it needs to go. It's not allowed to be on the emergency exit. It has to be by the window. There's all these different rules and things, right? But some people don't like having the rules explained to them if it's their job to know the rules. You know, they could take against it no matter how kindly you try to do it. So this one guy got really stressed and annoyed by my guitar and was telling me that I had to put it like in the hold, and I said, no, I don't have to do that. It's got a seat. And he was getting really stressed. And in the end, he got a baggage handler to come up and tie it using these kind of tow rope looking things. You tie it to the seat. And he used about 3 of these ropes and tied some kind of big Boy Scout knots in the rope. So I just sat and patiently watched him do that. And then I did say to the steward after the baggage handler left the plane, I said, is there somebody who's going to be able to untie this when we land? Because I don't know if I'm going to be able to do it, mate. No knives on board to cut it out. It was really, that was a weird one. But there's always been weird things. I love the fact that it's got to go in the window seat. a lovely, rich black vinyl edition of John Gomm's album The Faintest Idea came out this year. From that's entitled Swallow You Whole, which probably isn't referencing Brussels sprouts. Go to johngomm.com, JONGOMM, for a beautifully shot video of his entire performance in Montreux this year. And also in January and February, he's offering one-to-one guitar lessons online. And we return to probably my favourite interviewee, Thomas Anderson. Now, as well as Fireworking at St.Croix, Gazpacho have been releasing half-speed masters of some of their back catalogue this year. A chance to talk to Thomas about what half-speed masters are, but the conversation, as it often does with Thomas, took a little bit of a tangent toward both of our fascinations with the future of music and creativity, specifically artificial intelligence.
My problem with AI is it's sort of given me a scare regarding the creative process, because if a machine can do it, when I grew up, or when we grew up, there was the idea of the romantic, starving artist. We all thought that, you had this starving, depressed genius, writing something in an attic in Paris somewhere with a baguette under his arm and 2 bottles of red wine with candles in them. And now I listen to some of the AI music. I can't remember what the site is called. I think it's called Area. And I put, what you can do is you can put your own tunes in there, and it'll make something based on the mood or based on whatever it bases things off on. And I put a Gazpacho song in there from the Fireworker album, and it created a really beautiful piece. It didn't beat the piece I put in there, but maybe in 2 weeks it will. And that kind of got me thinking, why in the hell are we spending our lives putting all this energy into making stuff when the machine can generate it in 2 seconds, probably in a short while? And it felt... Also, I've been working on a novel. I'm thinking of writing a book. I have an excellent idea. So I've been dabbling with that. And I downloaded it's Grammarly. I don't know why. I think it's just because I'm an idiot when it comes to the little signs. What are they called? Apostrophes? Yeah, I still don't know how to do punctuation on these keyboards. I'm too stupid. So in order to get the punctuation right, I downloaded Grammarly, and I looked at some other AI writing tools, and in one of them, I could write the first sentence, or I could write the plot of my idea for the novel. And the damn thing wrote 2 pages, and it was pretty good. And if I wanted to, I already know that there are people releasing AI-written books on Amazon, and they make simple, I don't know, romance novels or whatever the hell it is, but this has created for me almost a sense of not really knowing where all this is going and not liking it one bit. Which is weird, because you would think that the creation of great music, great books, great art, hell, go for it. I mean, we can never have too much. But it's that old romantic idea of the genius artist. I think, like certain classical pieces of music, become so much better when you know who wrote it and when they were written and why they were written and what it's supposed to be about. And if someone said, this is an AI, spat it out, in 2 minutes, something is lost, which doesn't make sense, because the piece of music will be identical, but something is still lost, and I don't know what is lost. So thanks for having this chat with me. I hope you weren't offended by my drinking of my soda stream.
No, that's not, of course I'm not. I would tell you if I was offended.
I have become addicted to bubbly water.
Yeah.
Did you know that
it's not
that was
giving you wind?
Did you even? No, it doesn't. No, nothing comes out of anything. Did you know that this was an addiction thing? I had no idea.
Anything can be an addiction thing. Perhaps you've got an addictive personality.
Yeah, I do actually. I do.
Yeah, you're kind of like you're putting things in order because there's so much disorder. That's what you're doing.
Yeah.
If I drink this, everything will be okay, man.
Yeah, it has to be.
It's lovely to speak to you, Tom. Please give my love to the rest of your group and tell me what that is. You've got 1 minute. Tell me what this thing behind you is.
Rustic art from Latvia. bought by
okay.
bought by my mother when she was there to go on a spa when she was suffering from cancer.
Wow.
And now that she has passed away and is visiting the
Sorry
heavens,
to hear that.
then we hung this up here because it's perfect to insulate against echoes.
She's looking after you.
She is. Even from beyond the grave, she still continues to help and insulate. But I love this kind of I love rustic folk art. I'm a big folk music, folk art, folk costume buff. I'm one of these, if people didn't know me better, they'd think I was one of these nationalist types. But I'm not. I'm totally not.
Gazpacho from the half-speed master of March of Ghosts. That's entitled Gold Star. And a gold star from myself, Billy Reeves, to you for listening to the Kscope podcast, supporting all these wonderful independent artists. Do please like, subscribe and comment wherever you may find us. And I'm reminded that Envy of None released a 7-inch single for Ukraine for the UNHCR, and there's still copies of it available, so Google. And also that TesseracT have a couple of tracks on Bandcamp for the Regrowth Disasters Emergency Committee, the TesseracT Regrowth EP. And if you are on Bandcamp, do please treat yourself to some Kscope wares with your record tokens that you got for Christmas. Early next year, we'll be looking forward to new albums from Clone and new signing Empire, and also the new album from TesseracT. And we're going to be speaking to the TesseracT boys through the winter and the spring. So, to finish then, from the Regrowth AA side available on Bandcamp, TesseracT Hollow. Ta-ta, and have a good one.